Hey guys, Derek Giovanni, Derek G Photography. Today I'm going to tell you how you can bring cheap lights into your studio. Hey guys, Derek Giovanni, Derek G Photography. Today we're going to talk about a couple methods that I use, or at least that I used when I started photography, to bring cheap lights into the studio. You don't need to spend a lot of money on lights, at least at the beginning. You really don't. As a photographer, I don't think you need to spend a lot of money on lights. You can get away with spending something around $100 for a light to bring into studio, right? I know there are some arguments about how many lights you should have in studio and how much money you should spend on lights. And honestly, you could spend a little bit of money, you could spend a ton of money on lights. And, you know, as when you're starting out as a photographer, honestly, I really don't think there's a need to spend a lot of money on lights. I think as a photographer, what you really want to do is you want to learn how to use a light. You want to learn how to use your equipment, right? So what I would do, honestly, is I would spend a little bit of money on one light, just one, not three, not two, one, and then learn how to use it, right? If it's something that you're going to do on a regular basis, or if it's something that you're going to pick up and enjoy, yeah, then you're going to bring more lights into the studio, right? You're going to experiment using more lights and things like that. But there are a couple reasons why I suggest spending a little bit of money on a light as opposed to spending a lot of money on one or maybe even three lights, right? One, you're learning, right? You're learning how to do this stuff. And as with anything, when you're learning how to do something, I don't think you should spend a ton of money learning how to do it unless you want to. Sometimes we got cash in the pockets and we want to do that. That's fine. But my argument there is, why would you spend a lot of money on a light and then you're going to play with it and you're going to be like, I don't think this is my thing. And all of a sudden you spend a ton of money and you got to resell it, and you might be able to resell it for what you paid for it, but maybe not, right? So like, I'm a firm believer that you're going to want to learn using the cheaper gear. And not only that, but why bring three lights into the studio right away? I tell you what, when I was learning, I was using one light and I learned how to perfect it, right? And that made me really excited about wanting to bring more lights into the studio, right? And then I brought two lights in, and now I run, in my studio, I'm running with three lights, but that's not necessarily all. I mean, I don't always use three lights. I do go back to one light from time to time. Sometimes I bring in a second light if I want to bring, light in from one side or the other, but it's not always the case. So I think it gets really confusing with light especially when you're learning, when you bring in a ton of lighting, just bring in one light. As a photographer, I'm speaking as a photographer. Okay, I'm not a videographer. I'm learning video, right? So like, even with videos, sometimes I think it would be nice to use one light. I'm using two lights obviously for this setup because I wanted to light myself evenly, right? But I will say that the gear I'm using today, and this was important, the gear that I'm using today cost me $60. So I got two lights here. They cost me $60. And really all I want to do is I wanted to light the scene so I look good for you. But what we're going to do today, well, first of all, I'm going to talk about the gear that I would recommend, including the $60 of gear that I purchased here. And we're also going to go through some cool video and photography type events that I would use these lights for. So these are obviously continuous lights. They're not flashes, but I'll use these for photography. Why not? So really, all I'm going to do today is I'm going to use these two lights, and we're going to create some cool shots. Let's see what we can get. And like I said, I'm going to turn one of them off, and I'm going to bring both of them in. So at most, we're going to have a two light solution for our photography today. But we're going to use one light. We're going to see what we can get, right? Because I'm a firm believer that you can take pictures using one light. And I'm also a firm believer that you do not have to spend a ton of money on your first light. So let's see what we get. All right, I'll talk to you later. Stay tuned, we're gonna get some really cool shots. Okay, so obviously you can see a couple of these soft boxes in my frame, and I just wanted to get them really close to me for the first shot. So basically, this is a nice, I got these two guys on the side. So these are HP USN. And we're going to go over those in a bit. I'm actually a big fan of HP USN's products because they're cheap and they're good. So under $100, you can absolutely do it with HP USN. We're going to talk about that a little later. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to use these two lights to show you what we can get. So right now I have these two lights to the side of me, and they're evenly, it looks like the face is evenly lit, right? So that's cool, but what if we want to get a little bit more creative? All I'm going to do is I'm going to step forward. Watch this. Look at that. What do we get? So it's almost like, they're almost like strip lights, right? So like, you know, the front of my face is kind of in shadow, and the sides of my face are now lit, right? So this is kind of a cool technique. I like this for guys. You know, you turn this into a black and white image or something like that, and you can get a really cool shot using this. Now, keep in mind, all I did was I stepped forward. That's all I did. So these two lights now are behind me. So you remember in the last video where I was saying put your lights behind you? Well, that's exactly kind of what I did here. Now they're behind me. It creates this really cool effect. So now I'm going to move back again, and look at that. Now I'm exposed again. So it's just, you know, it's just practicing. The really cool thing about this, $60 solution, right? And it allows for me to play, and it allows for me to learn, because it's about learning. It's not about being a professional right off the bat. Professionals might spend $1,000 on a lighting system right off the bat. But you're learning, right? If you're learning, why would you spend $1,000? If you're learning, why would you spend $1,000? I don't know, it just does not make sense to me. Spend as much as you feel like you can afford on a learning budget. That's what I would do. So anyway, I'm going to turn off one of these lights. Let's play with one. All right. So now I've turned off one of the lights. And now if you notice, I get a little bit more shadow over here. And it's hot over here, right? All I did was turn off one light. Now I can play with this light, right? It's a one light solution. And as a photographer, it's the best way to learn. Learn with one light. Bring in more lights later. Now I'm going to step forward again. Let's see what we get. Look at that. Look at that. Now we got that really cool contrasty shot where half of my face is in shadow and the other half is in light. I tend to like this shot for guys as well. I mean, you can do this. You can take this shot with women clients as well, but I tend to like to do these kinds of contrasty images with the guys. So, but don't let that stop you. Do what you want, right? So let's move this guy around. I know he's off, but what happens now is that this, even though the light's off, is a fill light, right? So imagine this really big reflector on this side. Well, the really cool thing about it, I guess you could consider this a second light because it's reflecting light from this guy. I don't have an assistant today, so I got, you know, I'm basically throwing in my own reflector from the side. It is a way, it's a way to bring in reflectors without having to have assistants. Another really cool thing about this HP USN product is that it comes with light stands, it comes with these soft boxes, and it comes with lights. Under $100, man, that's crazy. That is crazy. Look, right there, HP USN. I'm a big fan of this product because it's cheap and it's good. Okay, so now I have this light to the side of me, and I like what I see. You know, we got the hot lights over here. It's bouncing light over here. It's lighting from this side, but then it comes over to here, and this light is bouncing back into my face a little bit, and it's bringing a little bit of the light back. It's really that easy, man. I mean, but you're not going to know how to do this stuff unless you practice. It's all about practice. You can spend hours on YouTube learning this stuff. Man, just pick this up and practice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this light out completely because I really did say we're going to play with the one light solution, right? So let's take this out. So what do we get? Look at that. Take that light out for 1 second. And this side is all in shadow. You turn this into a black and white image, man. You're going to impress your family. You're going to impress your friends. I mean, it's a cool technique. I'm going to go over a picture a little bit later that I took of my dad using a very similar technique with a light that was under $100. It's still one of my favorite pictures to this day. I didn't spend a lot of money on the light to take it. I'll tell you how I did it. I love it. It's one of my favorite pictures. Okay, so now that I have this light over here, this is where, you know, if I had a model in studio, I would start having them move their face around to try to see what it's going to do, right? So I'm going to turn to the left just a little bit. You see that light coming back on the side of my face? Really cool, right? Yeah, it's that easy. If you want to, you can do some profile stuff by doing that, right? It's really cool. It's that easy. It's really easy. Let's see. What else can I do? I'm going to raise this guy up and angle it down a little bit, and let's see what we get. Okay, I'm going to adjust again. But if you can see now, what I did was I kind of put it at a diagonal. So it's kind of like this. And I'll show you a little bit later about how all this is set up. But now I have the light stands up a little bit higher, and the flashes, or the actual light, is more at a diagonal. Okay, so this is what allows for me to get more of that Rembrandt look, right? So you get this like triangle on the side of this side of the face. This side of the face is all lit, right? So now what you do, I could sit down, I can get a little bit lower, or maybe I can just squat. Let's see what I can do. So now I'm gonna direct myself to kind of look into this light a little bit, just a little bit. Because I just keep moving around until I'm looking at the triangle on the shadowed side of the face until I like it. If I like that, I can keep moving. This is a cool thing. This is the cool stuff about continuous lights, is I can play. Look at that. Look at that. And then I'm gonna kind of just wrap the shoulders back a little bit, bring the head forward a little bit, and there I am. I mean, I could spend a lot more time posing myself, but I'm just trying to give you guys an idea of what you can do using one light. It's that easy, man. It's that easy. And this light, like I said, part of a $60 solution at the time for 2 lights. I'm using one. You don't have to use both of them. You use one. Kind of cool. Let's see what happens if I put the light behind me. I don't know if this is... So the one thing about LEDs and continuous lights is that in studio, it's kind of hard to get the light where you want it and to bring that background down. Now, when I put the light behind me, I tend to go for more of it's called a low-key effect, where the background is a little bit darker, and we're trying to go for almost like a silhouette type of thing. Just see what we get. We're just playing. But that's the cool thing about this. That's the cool thing about this, is that we're playing. I spent $60 and I'm playing. And what I find out, I'm going to jot it down, and I'm going to say, this one, for me, it worked. It might not work for other photographers, but for me, it worked. And for my clients, it works. Let's just put this behind me and see what happens. It's really hard right now to play. And, I'm using my phone to film today because I wanted to show you that you don't necessarily have to buy a camera for this stuff either. Although I'm always using it. If I'm taking professional pictures, I'm using a good camera. But the light's behind me. And, it's creating an interesting backlight. It's hard to see exactly what's going on. But, it may work, it may not, but I'm playing. That's the important thing. I'm playing. And when you play, you learn. When you play, you learn. And honestly, there is no reason to spend a ton of money on gear while you're learning. I really don't think so. Brands that I love. Before I get into we're going to go over some shopping stuff a little bit later, and I'll tell you what I recommend. But brands that I love while you're learning: HPUSN. Check them out. I'm going to include a link in the description of this video. Check out HPUSN. I'm not affiliated with them. They're not paying me to say this. I'm simply saying that HPUSN's products are cheap and they work. Period. I mean, go for it, man. Check out HPUSN. Other products that I recommend, and we're going to go over this a little bit later. Godox. Godox makes some fantastic gear. It's a little bit more expensive. I'm going to show you a little bit more expensive solutions, right? But it's not going to be like $1,000 for 3 lights or anything like that. Maybe, you get 3 Godox lights, and the modifiers and the stands and all that. You're probably at $600, maybe $700, right? So it's a little bit more expensive, but you can still buy 1 Godox light. We're going to go over that a little bit later. We're also going to go over Amaran, which I love. Yeah, the Amaran products are probably some of my favorite lights. They are more expensive, right? But they're a little bit higher quality. I think Amaran is releasing some really cool stuff, and I'm going to talk about it. But once again, you don't need to buy 3 Amarans. Just buy one. Buy one. Yeah, $200-300. It's a little bit more expensive, but I mean, just buy one and learn. I would recommend the Amaran, the 150cc, because it's a little bit more expensive. Wait for a sale. I think the Black Friday prices are over. But those amaranth, once you can start changing colors, then you can get extremely creative. So yeah, I would definitely, if you're looking at the amaranths, that is a different investment, I think, because now you're going, I mean, you're always learning, but you're definitely going from somebody that's learning about photography to somebody that wants to use it for professional use, I think, because I use my amaranths in studio professionally because they're really good. I'll tell you one thing though, that does not mean I'm not using these professionally. These are fantastic. I've used these professionally. I've used them for interviews and things like that, and I'm actually used them for portraits. So we're going to go over that a little bit later. So yeah, I just recommend Godox, Amaran, and HPUSN. I mean, if you're just starting, there are a lot of other products on Autorama, Amazon, and you can check them out. The one thing about the HPUSN products, let me see if I can. So this is the HPUSN product that I have, and it's a square shaped softbox. I know they have newer products that have circular shaped softboxes. We're going to go over that in a minute. At about $100, you get 2 of these. Comes with the stand, comes with the softbox, it comes with the light, and you obviously plug these into the wall because they're continuous lights. But let me show you what mine has. So I'm going to take this off. So mine has these. They're not LEDs, right? See, I don't know. These are just regular CFL bulbs. I don't remember what kind of bulbs these are, but it's a good bulb. It gives you a standard output. You don't have a lot of options on here. Obviously, can't change color. If I wanted to dim this, I think what I would have to do is there are these techniques where you can flag the light, you can feather the light. So that's for another topic. But there are ways to get this light a little bit less bright. But you're going to be a little bit limited with regards to that. So there is that. This is it with the light on right there. So there you go. Big fan. Okay, so let's start off with a really cool picture of my father. This picture was taken about 9 years ago. My dad was living with me at the time, and my sister was in town. And I set up some lights to take pictures of her and her family. And I was lugging around one light with me that day. It was just a really cheap flash. It was on a cheap light stand, and there was a cheap umbrella on it. So it was definitely less than $100 solution. So we were walking around the house, and my dad was watching TV, and I said, "Hey, Dad, I want to take some pictures of you." So I lugged the flash in front of him and took a shot. We probably shot for about a minute, got a couple pictures. This one was my favorite of all the images that we took. So if you can see, the light is to his right, and the catch light is to his right if you look at his eyes. So this was the picture that I took. And then let's see, this is the picture that I edited. And I really like this image a lot. I find that converting to black and white for pictures like this always adds an element of interest. And I boosted the contrast and the sharpness a little bit to help to elevate the scene. Still love this picture, it's still one of my favorites. And this was a cheap solution. This was not an expensive flash. This was definitely one flash on a cheap stand and a cheap umbrella to spread the light around. So I absolutely love this picture. Let's move on to one more picture. So this picture here, so there's this area close to my house called Lake Clementine. And I'd never shot over there before. And in this case so it was the Godox, or it was the Flashpoint, the 600 TTL. So it's a little bit more expensive of a flash. But this was like harsh daylight. So this was like middle of the day. The shadows were really ugly, and I just wanted to get a little bit of light into her face to fill in the shadows. So, so I took one light with me. I couldn't have taken more than one light with me in this case, because we had to hike down a hill to get to the rock. I mean, I could have, but I decided not to. And managing one light in this scenario is a lot easier than managing multiple lights, especially when you have your really expensive gear that's kind of hanging out with you on a cliff, right? So I definitely love this picture as well. And like I said, I just wanted to fill in the shadows that the harsh sun tends to create during the middle of the day. So let's see, what else do I have? So this picture I just took recently in my new studio. And once again, this was taken with my Amaran, my 150C, and color changing light, but I just used it in its regular white white mode, right? The light itself, I toned it to be a little bit warmer for this particular scene. But yeah, so one light again. And what I did, so I know one light sometimes will tend to create shadows on the other side of the face sometimes. And sometimes you want to fill that in with like a bounce card or maybe like a reflector or something like that. But in this case, I just, we didn't have a lot of time. It was actually taken on Thanksgiving. So, I just added one light, and then in post, and when I edited it, I boosted the shadows just a little bit so it didn't feel so contrasty. And yeah, so this was a really easy picture to take too, and one light. So don't believe all you hear about having to have more than one light in a scene to create amazing work. You can definitely create amazing work with one light. And like I said, if you're just beginning, this is the way to learn. This is the way to start. So all right, so let's take a look at some of the lights that I might recommend for you guys. Um, and I'm going to start with the one that I've been talking about quite a bit. This is by HPUSN. This isn't exactly the one that I have. The one that I have is I have had it for about 5 years, but I love it. I've used it a lot. They have some newer products that look pretty cool. So this one here, um, this one is. Well, let's see if we can find a better picture. So this guy here has. Oh, no, no. Okay, so we have two, more like a Um, hexagonal soft boxes. And you got two lights. It got light stands. These guys plug into the wall. This is a two light kit for $100. So this is a great deal. So it's $50 per light, and this is plenty. This is plenty for you to kind of get your feet wet. This is actually better than the kit that I have, in my opinion. I like the rounder soft boxes like this. I think they're pretty cool. So you can spend some time. Once again, this is hpusn.com, and I'm not affiliated with any of these, with the exception of Amaran. I do have an affiliate code. I would love for you to click it and buy a product. I get a little kickback, but other than that, everything else is just my opinions and recommendations. So you could go in here and you can look at their lighting kits that they have. This is the set that I have. So I actually said $60. Um, it was $60 doesn't include the stands. So if you wanted the stands, you'd have to get those. Those are extra, but I wouldn't bother. I would look at one of these 95 or this $85 solution here, $95 solution here. The only difference with the $95 solution is the lights are a little bit brighter, and I like them a little bit better. So just something to consider. Check out HPUSN. So let's move on. Let's see what else we got. So this here is Godox. It's a Godox light. It's a cheap Godox light. It's on Adorama has it right now for $159. It's a great little light. It's a 100-watt light. Um, I don't particularly own this light, but I imagine it would do a great job. So if you're looking for something that you get a little bit more bang for your buck, it's 159. Doesn't include the stand, so you'd have to go into the stand a little bit, but it does include a reflector, so that's kind of cool. You might need to look at like a softbox or an umbrella. Look at an umbrella. We're going to look at umbrellas a little bit later. So yeah, this gets you into one light for like $200. Pretty cool. So let's see, what else do I have? And of course, I'm going to talk about my Amaran products. This is the Amaran 100XS. This one's a little bit more expensive, but what I do like about this light here is that it is where was it? It's a bicolor. So basically, it's not, you don't get like the RGB colors, but you do get, like, you get the warmer whites, you get the cooler whites, um, and things like that. So it's something to consider. I know it's a little bit more, but I thought I would share it. That's so that's on aperture.com, but the actual light itself is an Amaran 100XS. Big fan of the Amaran products. Let's move on. So if you want a flash, looks like Adorama has the flash point zoom LION3R2 for $99. So this is just a little flash. Now the one thing that this doesn't give you a modeling light, so there's no continuous light that this flash pushes out. So it's just a flash. But if you wanted to learn about flash photography, there's no reason to spend $1,000 on a flash. You can spend 99 right now, and you can go off to the races. You grab this, a light stand. You probably want to get like an umbrella, and then we're also going to look at there is a little trigger that you're going to have to buy as well. So you'd probably be in $160, $170 after all is said and done. But just starting out, that's not like break the bank type of thing. So just thought I'd show that. This is a Godox. Um, it's a Godox flash. BH Photo has it for $65 right now. This is great. I mean, it's a cheap flash, and you get this if you're just starting out. Buy this flash for $65 and learn to use it. If you love it, if you love to light, then you can upgrade your lighting later. But this is how I would start. This is how I started. I started with one flash, and I recommend the same to you. This is the wireless flash trigger that I was talking about that will trigger the Godox flashes and the flash point. So this trigger here, which is the X Pro S TTL wireless flash trigger, will trigger this flash, I believe. And it'll also trigger the Flashpoint Zoom LION3. A lot of the Flashpoint stuff on Adorama is just they take the Godox flashes and then they kind of rename them as Flashpoint. So you can still use Flashpoint in those cases. So yeah, stuff that I would consider. So as far as umbrellas go, just go to B&H. You can do a search for umbrellas. I mean, there's some cheap umbrellas in here that you can look at. So Westcott, which is a great brand, has an umbrella for $21. Umbrellas are umbrellas. So you just want to, in my opinion, you want to get something that is a good quality. Most of these umbrellas seem to do just fine. So you don't have to go after the races when it comes to price. If you're going for like a 32-inch or a 43-inch umbrella, $21.90 seems to be right on. But this can be used with flashes. This can be used with the Amaran 100XS. It could be used with the Godox SL100BI. I mean, it could be used with just about everything that I showed you. And once again, I don't think you're breaking the bank with this solution. One of the other things that you're going to have to consider is a light stand as well. So don't forget the light stand. BH has an impact light stand for $20. It's a great deal, something you want to consider. You can look at some of the more expensive light stands, but if you're just starting out, I think this will do well. Impact light stands. One thing to note: if you're taking these stands outside and it's windy, you need to either have an assistant that's holding the light stand, or you're going to need to find a way to apply some weight to the bottom of these stands to make sure they don't tip over. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, but I'm going to go back to this guy because I think this is a great deal for a continuous light. If you're just starting out, I mean, it's $100. It comes with everything. You plug them in, you're ready to go. So all that stuff I showed you before, what I was doing, I was using these guys. They're great. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, I'm gonna log out. I just wanted to show you some really cool examples of flashes and continuous lights that you have at your disposal, and you don't have to spend a ton of money to get this stuff rolling. You got to remember, so the goal when you're learning anything is to just kind of go at it at your own level. And I really do think that when you're learning something new, you don't jump in with both feet, or at least I didn't. Maybe some people do. I don't. I don't jump in with both feet. I get my feet wet a little bit. I didn't spend a lot of money on my first camera. I spent like $500-$600 on my first camera, and I learned how to use that camera, right? Got really good at using that camera. And then when I found that this was something that I really wanted to do, and I spent a little bit more on my next camera because I knew that I was going to use it, right? If you jump in and you spend $2,000 on your first camera and you don't use it, that's a big investment, right? The same with lighting, right? You spend $1,000 on 3 lights and you don't use them. It's it's hard to digest that, right? But if you spend $100 on these lights right here and you don't use them, that's a lot easier to digest, in my opinion. But the cool thing is if you spend $100 on these lights right here and you use them and you get really good at it, and look at some of the more expensive options down the road. That's kind of how I would look at this. Anyway, so this is Derek G Photography signing out. I'll talk to you guys later.